So today I'm going to be reviewing all 70 books that I've read so far this year. This is about to be one of my longest videos ever. Just letting you know. I will say now though, I am so bad at rating books. I normally never give them a rating unless I think it's a 5-star read and it's on my favorites list, because I just have such an appreciation for anyone that is able to dedicate that much time into writing a story and coming up with something and actually finishing it, that it's kind of hard for me to say something's bad when someone has tried to do something and actually succeeded. So my reviews might not be super bad unless it's just something that I found it super difficult to get through, and yeah. Without further ado, let's get started. The Enchiridion by Epictetus. This book is about Stoicism, so if you're interested in philosophy, this might be a book you want to pick up. It's just really about, accepting everything that's happening around you and how to be happy with what life throws your way. Kind of goes with my tattoo, Amor Fati, which actually goes back to Epictetus and Marcus Aurelius, because they mention this quote quite a bit. And again, it's just about loving your fate and embracing your fate and whatever's thrown at you. This is a shorter read, but it's very thought-provoking and it's beautifully written, and it's such a classic. It's so old. I can't believe people wrote stuff this profound back then. This was my first existentialism book and I thoroughly enjoyed it. Yeah, I really enjoyed it. If you're interested in philosophy or even the dark academia aesthetic, the Albert Campus novels are the perfect place to start reading about existentialism if you're interested in DA to that depth. I still liked the overall outlook of this book and the story. The next book is Crime and Punishment by Dostoevsky. I loved this book. 5 stars. The story is so freaking good. It kind of resembled The Stranger by Albert Campus, but a little bit different, of course, because the intentions of the two main characters were completely different. It did really remind me of that book quite a bit, except more in detail and much longer. This book was incredible, and the way that it ends, mind-blowing. Like, everyone has their own agenda throughout this book, and you don't realize that until you start reading. Yeah, if you haven't read this one, definitely give it a go. The next book is 1984 by George Orwell. I don't know why I didn't read this in the past, because it's so similar to other dystopian classics like Fahrenheit 451 or Brave New World. I feel like these are all in the exact same category, kind of the same world, but different stories, if that makes sense. So I absolutely loved this book. The next book is Dune by Frank Herbert. I personally liked this book. I know people hated it. I was one of those few people that liked it. Will I pick up the next one and read it? No, probably not. The reason I enjoyed this book so much was because I saw the movie first. Sometimes if I'm not really interested in reading a book, I'll watch the movie and then I'll read the book, because the movie will let me know if I'm interested in reading the book or not. When I read the book, it was so spot on to the movie that I really breezed through this book because I kind of already knew what was going to happen. It is a little bit on the slower side because there's a lot of world developing, but I think that's what makes it so special and unique. Wuthering Heights by Emily Bronte. Guys, I liked this book a lot. The next book is Leaves of Grass by Walt Whitman. It's very poetic and beautiful, but it's a little hard for me to understand. The next book is The Iliad. I loved this. 5 stars. If you want to read about a crazy war, Greek mythology war, this is it. It's kind of comical in a way. Like, the way that they fight each other and then they're like, hang on a second, can you just give me 15 minutes to go bury someone and then we continue this epic fight? Okay, cool. The next book is Sense and Sensibility. They said this was going to be a fast-paced read. Wasn't. It definitely wasn't. I understand why people like it, but for me, this writing style is very hard for me to understand. I didn't absolutely love it. It was very slow for me still. Yeah, I don't even know what to rate this. I'm glad that I read it to say that I read it, but I would not read it again. Moving on. The next book is Jane Eyre by Charlotte Bronte. I actually liked this one. I'd say it's like a 4-star read. I thought the ending was really good. There was a lot of stuff that happened in this book. I didn't hate it, so success. The next book is Anne of Green Gables by L.M. Montgomery. There's just so much in her writing that is beautiful, and the way that Anne talks is so magical, and it reminds me of being a kid, and it just embracing the little things. I loved it. I thought it was amazing. Anne of Avonlea. This is the second book of Anne of Green Gables, and I thought it was great. I love that towards the end, Anne starts to realize, oh my gosh, I think I like Gilbert. About time. Like, I also love reading how she is as an adult compared to how she was as a child, and how she encounters children that are similar to her. So it was very interesting to see. The Secret Garden by Frances Burnett. It was great. It was really happy. It was a heartfelt book. It was not a romance. I thought it was romance. They're cousins. My bad. So next is the Maze Runner series. We've got first one, The Maze Runner by James Dashner, 5 stars. The Scorch Trials, 5 stars. The Death Cure, 5 stars. The Kill Order, I would say that's like 4 stars for me, and The Fever Code, 4 stars. The last two, I mean, I can't say they're bad. I just think that I didn't care as much. I really liked the whole maze and the trials that they had to go through in order to find a cure. But, you know, it was still a really good backstory to kind of fill in the gaps and get the whole story from beginning to end. Yeah, if you don't know what the Maze Runner trilogy is about, it's about a boy that wakes up in a maze and he doesn't know how he got there, and no one knows how they got there, and they have to try to get out of the maze, and they end up eventually escaping. And it's such a great dystopian book, and I absolutely loved it. I swear to you, when I read this, I was at the airport and I was running to get on the train, and the doors were closing, and it was about like this far open, and I jumped through it. And people on the train went, whoa, that was really cool. And I swear to you, I just channeled my inner Thomas. And it was right after I read the series. I don't know, I felt like Thomas running through the maze. It was really cool. Something I will say though is that the film adaptation of this book is the worst film adaptation I've ever seen. So if you are considering reading the books, don't read them until after you watch the films. Because if you read the books first, like I did, and then you watch the films, you're gonna hate the movies. The Paris Library by Janet Charles. I'm not gonna try to pronounce her middle name. I just cannot try. This book was really good. It was done really well. There was so much time and effort and research put into this writing, and also the author worked at the Paris Library. So when you're reading about it, you're like, oh, this is probably similar to her experience there, except based in a different time. The next book, A Deadly Education by Naomi Novik. I wish I loved this book more. I thought the idea was so good, but after I watched this back, I realized I didn't even talk about the main protagonist, Elle, and she was primarily the reason I did not like the book entirely, because she was just very mean to Orion and other people for no reason, as if everybody in the school hated her. But I did think that the overall world that was created was very beautiful. I just wish it had better characters. But that's just my personal preference. The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue by V.E. Schwab. Whoa, this story was definitely completely different from what I imagined it was going to be. In my head, when I heard of the storyline, I was like, oh, this is gonna be crazy. But it was even crazier than I could have imagined. Like the way it ended, I don't really know what to rate this book. I never rated this one. It's anywhere from 3 to 4 stars. I liked it. It wasn't bad by any means. It's just, I wish it would have gone a different way than what I imagined. And that's my own fault for thinking up a storyline before I even read the story. The next book is Shadow and Bone by Leah Bardot. I watched the series on Netflix first, and I was just very happy reading the book because the series was so spot on to the book itself. Thank you, Netflix writers. Although they did add some characters in the series that weren't in the book, it didn't really mess with the original story between Mal and Alina and the Darkling, so that's good. This is like a fantasy fiction novel, and I'm not really into fantasy anymore, but this book really does it for me. Shadow and Bone, 5-star read. The Guest List by Lucy Foley. This book, okay, I liked it. I haven't really had time to think about it, but I did like this book, but I knew exactly what was going on in the beginning. because I've read too many murder mystery and it's just easy for me to figure out. But I still liked it. It was very fast paced and there was a lot of story to be told, and I would recommend for anyone to read it that likes murder mystery. The next book is Rock, Paper, Scissors by Alice Feeney. Oh my gosh, this is a 5-star read. This book was crazy. So crazy. The entire time I had no idea what was going on. I was trying to figure it out. You literally cannot figure it out. And the fact it ended the way it did makes this book spectacular and terrifying. Like, it was pretty terrifying the way that it ended. I can only imagine if something like this happened in real life. If you like thrillers, this would be the book for you. But there's a lot. Like, you're in for a trip. When you read this, you're going on an adventure. There's a lot in this book to comprehend. The next book is A Good Girl's Guide to Murder by Holly Jackson. I really enjoyed this book. The way it was written was done so well because it was through interviews, phone calls, emails, and it was just really entertaining to read. Plus, you read through it and you think you know what's going on and you realize you don't. Like, there's so much to the story. It's so thought through, and that's what makes it so good. 5 Total Strangers by Natalie D. Richards. This is a YA thriller, and I loved it. I loved it so much. I would say that this is a 4-star read for me. It was very entertaining the entire time. I was just like trying to figure out who did what, why everything was happening, how this was even possible. I thought it was great. The Woman in Cabin 10 by Ruth Ware. This book was really good. It kind of reminded me of The Murder on the Orient Express a bit. Obviously a little bit different, lots of twists and turns. The next book is The Woman in the Window. I read this book because I saw the parody version on Netflix, and then I was so intrigued about what the actual story was that I read the book. This is a murder mystery, by the way, and it didn't disappoint. I thought it was a very interesting take. Stranger in the House. I've thought about it because I still haven't rated it, but right now I want to say, yeah, this is a good murder mystery thriller. It's about a woman that gets in a car accident and she's in a part of town that she would never be in, and she doesn't know why she was there. And when she returns home from the hospital, she finds that certain things in the house have been moved around and she thinks someone has been there. So that's all I can really say. The way it ended was not how any other murder mystery book has ended that I've read. The next book is The 7.5 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle. I don't really know what to rate this one. I didn't hate it, but I didn't ultimately love it either. It was very entertaining, but I just don't really know how I feel about the whole storyline. I think this storyline is done so often that it wasn't anything extremely new to me. Therefore, it was a little bit boring. Although, you know, there was a little twist in there. It's the afterlife. It's Groundhog Day. I wouldn't read it again, if that helps. I mean, it wasn't bad. I'd say it's like a 3.5 for me. The next book is A Study in Charlotte. I loved this. I loved the relationship between Holmes and Watson. I could only imagine just romanticizing a friendship and then actually getting that friendship. It very much resembled Richard in The Secret History. I would definitely read trigger warnings on this one if you feel like reading it, because there are some dark things that are spoken about, but I felt like it was a very realistic take. The next book is A Study in Scarlet Women. This book is about Charlotte Holmes, and I liked it. It kind of reminded me of the Enola Holmes Netflix show a bit. I liked the way that they portrayed Charlotte Holmes. Would I read it again? Probably not. I'd say it's like a 3.5-star read for me. Let's move on to the next one, which is back here. Here we go. We Were Liars by E. Lockhart. If you have not read this book yet, what are you doing? This took me about 3 hours to finish. It's only like 225 pages long, so it's a very quick read. I read this because it was just this group of kids that came from wealth, except one of them, and it was very much up my alley and the elite socialite groups that I love to read about because of dark academia. And this book's incredible because of the ending. So if you read it and you find that it starts getting a little slow in the middle, I promise when you reach the ending, it's all going to come back and it's going to make so much sense. The next book is The Silent Patient by Alex Michaelides. Did I say that right? I hope I did. I don't know. This is a 5-star read. It's on my favorites list. It is about Alicia Berenson, I think it's Berenson, who murders her husband. And it was just out of nowhere. And she goes mute from that point forward. She murders him and she never speaks again. And it's about a therapist that decides to try to get her to speak and come out about her story. This book was so nuts. I recommend this to anyone trying to get out of a reading slump if you like the murder mystery stuff. There's nothing in here that's going to be too terrifying for you to read if that's what you're worried about. Nothing super gruesome or anything that will scar you, so don't worry about that. But the story is very bizarre, but good. It's great. It's a great book. Midnight Sun by Stephanie Meyer. I didn't really love it. I read the fan fiction version of this years ago, so long ago, and to be honest, I thought it was done better than this one. The Duke and I, Bridgerton, the first book. I liked it, but I understand why people don't like that scene, and I'm not going to say what that scene is in case you haven't seen the series or read the book. But yeah, I understand. It's very inappropriate. Then again, it's also fiction, and I've read worse things in books. But the fact that they don't touch on it afterwards, and it's kind of just like this accepted thing, it's very odd. But other than that part, like just not thinking about that part, I'd say it's overall a good read. I did enjoy the romance that was budding between Daphne and the Duke. So I'd say it's like a 3.5, 4-star book. The next one is The Love Hypothesis by Ali Hazelwood. I've talked about this book so many times. I'm not going to go into it too much, but it's a 5-star read. And if you have not read it, read it. It's a STEMinist novel, and that's all I can say. It's just so good. It's like the best romance book I've read this year. The Hating Game by Sally Thorne. I liked how the characters had so much personality, and they had a reason to be rivals within the workplace. But what I thought was odd is the way how they portrayed Josh to be pretty obsessed with Lucy. And in my personal opinion, if I was Lucy and I found out a guy painted his walls the color of my eyes and was doing all these other weird things, I would just be freaked out, regardless if I was into him or not. I wouldn't find that cute. I would just be like, I'm gonna leave now. I don't know why that was even put in there. It made it so weird. It made it very weird and stalkery. If that part wasn't there, I thought it was good. Opposites Attract by Camilla Isley. Wow, I have a lot to say about this book. There's gonna be spoilers right now because I just have to rant about how awful this is. Let's just say if a therapist was seeing my underage daughter for free and not telling the mom about it, and then don't even get me started on the fact that he picked up her underage daughter from a party when she was drunk and he took her home and stayed there till she fell asleep. Like, kind of like a red flag. It's a little odd, right? It wasn't written inappropriately, but to me, in the real world, I feel like that's a very inappropriate thing. So because of that, it already goes down a star because it made the whole dynamic of the relationship with her daughter very weird. Regardless if they ended up getting together, it made it so odd. The next book is The Unhoneymooners by Christina Lauren. I loved it, 5 stars. The whole plot of this story was great. It's about two people that don't like each other are forced to go on a honeymoon in place of two other people that got married. And so they're forced to go to Maui and do all these honeymooner things together, and they end up falling for each other, of course. But the thing that makes this book so great is that it goes into what their life is like after they get together. And of course there's twists and turns, but this author did it much differently from any other book. So props to you, Christina. The next book is Love in Other Words by Christina Lauren. I didn't really love this book. I don't know why, but I just didn't really love it. The thing is, I didn't like reading about kids in a romantic relationship. That's why I didn't like it. I just can't relate to it because I'm older and I just can't relate to reading about children falling in love. I don't know. And I think that's primarily the reason why I did not enjoy it the way everyone else has. The next book is People We Meet on Vacation by Emily Henry. I love Emily Henry's romance novels so much. She really knows how to write romance and develop characters. I loved this book because it took place in Palm Springs, and that's where they vacation. And I grew up in California, and I would go to Palm Springs all the time. So just reading about that was very nostalgic for me. But the main thing that really sold me on this book was the way that she talked about vacations and how people feel when they're on them specifically, because the exact things that she wrote on the first page of that book are things that I have thought myself. The next book is A Discovery of Witches. Don't come at me, but I did not enjoy this book too much. Everyone told me that it was so similar to Twilight, but for adults, and I just did not agree. I did not really feel the romance between the two main characters. It kind of felt awkward when they would kiss, and I don't know, I didn't understand it. I loved that it took place at Oxford. I loved how atmospheric this book was, and talking about her canoeing and her morning routine and working at the school. I loved it, but the romance just threw me off. Also, when they went to magical yoga, I had to take a break because I thought it was so funny. It was just, I hadn't seen the series yet, and I was wondering if they were going to keep that scene in it. They didn't. They took it out. Thank goodness. I just thought it was really kind of weird. I guess it's a normal thing that people do, but it was just the oddest date. I don't know. Maybe it's just me. Don't come at me though. So I'd say this book for me is probably a 3. I can't say it's bad. Like I said, it's not bad. I would recommend people to read it if they're wanting a specific story. I just feel like the romance wasn't there the way that I felt it between Bella and Edward. Like, not at all. I did not feel the chemistry. Let me try to speed this up. Okay, beach read, 5 stars. This is by Emily Henry. It's a romantic rom-com novel. I thought this book was incredible. I think the characters have such great personalities, and he has such a good backstory, and she has such a good backstory, and the way that they come together. It's definitely one of those books that you pick up when you're in a reading rut and you just feel like you don't want to read anything. This is a pretty quick read, and it's intriguing and fast-paced, and there's a lot that happens, and it's just an overall really great story. So the first book I actually finished up in the new year, but it was a Christmas book that I started. Yeah, I didn't finish it till January, and that is The Christmas Bookshop by Jenny Colgan. I really enjoyed this book. I think it's a good Christmas read. I personally just love that she worked in a bookshop and brings the bookshop back to life. It was just a really cute story to read about, and there's romance in there too. I don't know what I would rate this one. Yeah, it was a good read. The next one is Astrophysics for People in a Hurry by Neil deGrasse Tyson. I will say, it's a lot to swallow. You gotta read it a lot. You gotta read it pretty slow to even understand the first page. Just this whole universe is so hard to fathom. I, like astrophysicists, how do you do it? So impressed by you and your work. But it's a great read for people that are just want an introduction to astrophysics. And I would definitely recommend it to anyone to read in general, because why not learn more about this beautiful place that we live in? So 5 stars for me. The next book is A Brief History of Time by Stephen Hawking. This book was amazing. Again, astrophysics, just space in general. There's so much in this book, but this book is written in a way that's easier for people to understand. I don't think you'll have to go back and reread a page multiple times to kind of grasp what's being said on that page. It's just a lot easier to understand. This was a 5-star read for me. Sorry if you hear that. That is rain. That's some really hard rain. I think it's kind of snowing a bit. Coffee break. 101 Essays That Will Change the Way You Think by Brianna Wiest. I think this was a 1-star book for me. I will say the first couple of essays I enjoyed, but then it kind of went downhill from there. I still read it in the beginning enjoying it, but then as I got through it, I kind of understood that this book was definitely not written by someone that had a potential wisdom. There was a lot of things that were said in there that were very negative, not anything that would change my life in a positive way, and that I just did not like at all. So one of the essays talked about A way to improve your life is to write out the worst possible scenario and how you would react to it in a positive way. But I think that if you're writing out something that's super bad, it's kind of a way to bring that into your life. And I thought that was just awful, awful advice. Another thing that was talked about in an essay was that you need to accept that you don't need to be successful or great or have money. And I just think that everyone deserves to have the things that they want in life. I don't know, that was just a really negative outlook. So overall, I found that the essays were very negative and it was not something that left me feeling great. The Art of Living by Bob Proctor, 5-star read. One of those positive thinking self-help books. Is it self-help? I don't even know if it's considered self-help. This book is just about living life to the fullest and being happy in the process. The next thing is Steal Like an Artist. So this book is just for creatives in general, photographers, artists, musicians, and it's just about how you can find your own personal style by looking at people that you look up to and taking bits and pieces from each individual of things that you enjoy and love and turning it into your own thing. Again, this is like on the shorter side, just one of those little books. The next book is Art is the Highest Form of Hope. This is a book of quotes, just motivational quotes, and it's a great read whenever you're kind of feeling down and you're like, I'm gonna read something from this famous artist, and then you got it right here. I feel like it's good captions for Instagram. Moving on to the next book, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. You've probably heard of this book before. It's extremely popular, but I did not love it that much. The reason I didn't love it is because there were so many stories that were told before it got to the actual habits itself. And I wasn't there to read about all these stories. I was there to read about the habits and how I can implement them into my life. And the stories just kind of seemed like a lot of extra work to get you to read a book. I'm not saying the book was bad, but I'm saying, can you just tell me where the habits start and on which page so I can just read that part? Because the stories just got me really bored. I don't even know what to rate this one. The next book is Earn Your Piece of the American Pie, Start Your Own Business Guide by Tammy Mihalich. This is a book about starting a business or just wanting to start a business and all of the details that go into filing taxes with a business, hiring people, how everyone gets paid. Literally every little detail that you can think of is in this book. This is a really good book. I rated this 5 stars. The next book is Badass Habits and You Are a Badass Every Day. These books are just about gaining self-confidence and doing things to help yourself succeed in life. And I love her writing because it's very comedic and her story as well is very inspiring. Yeah, these are really quick reads, but good ones. The next book is Feeling is the Secret. This is a pretty short read. You'll find that I went through a lot of self-help books because in January I decided to read just self-help because I wanted to see if it would change my mindset a little bit. But Feeling is the Secret by Neville Goddard. I'm gonna mess up so many names, I just know it. This book is about how to manifest and just positive intentions and positive thinking throughout your life. And I don't know if that's something that would interest you because I feel like this is a niche group of people, but I highly believe in surrounding yourself with positive energy and positive thoughts throughout your day in order to have a positive life. And that's really what it's about. The next book is the last Law of Attraction book you'll ever need to read. I have this annotated. If you're not into manifesting, this isn't going to be for you, but I saw a YouTube video of someone that read this book and it completely changed their life. So of course I went out and bought it because I want my life changed. But it was a 5-star read. It explains different ways of implementing positive thinking and just thinking about what you want in your life into your everyday life and making it easy. I haven't done it yet, but I will recommend this book because it was really good. And if you are into manifesting or believe in that sort of thing, this is for you. The next book is The Subtle Art of Not Giving a Fudge. I DNF'd this book. I didn't like it. I started reading it. Oh my gosh, it was so negative. I just don't understand how you can write a book that's supposed to be positive and it be so negative. Wasn't a fan. Also, the overuse of the word fudge was just not something I wanted to read. It wasn't even funny the way it was used. It wasn't comedic relief. Again, it was just kind of teaching you, oh, you don't need to strive for greatness. You don't need to be successful. You don't need to have these things. Don't strive for these things. And I feel like you're only on this earth once. If you want to strive for those things, strive for them. And I just don't think it's a very positive message to teach to people that are stuck in a rut, like telling them to stay down and not try. That's kind of the opposite of what you want. So I DNF'd this. The next book is Success Habits by Napoleon Hill. 5 stars. The Power of Positive Thinking. All these self-help books, 5 stars. I mean, they do exactly what they need to do. Since I have about 6 John C. Maxwell books, I'm just going to list them all out right now. They are all 5-star reads for me. I absolutely love his books and would recommend them to anyone that just wants more positive outlook on life or just think more positively. So the first book is The 15 Invaluable Laws of Growth. This one might be my favorite out of all of them. It's not like 7 Habits of Highly Effective People where it tells a bunch of stories and it doesn't get to the point. No, this gets to the point. And everything that's mentioned in here makes a lot of sense. And it's very easy and straightforward, and it's something that you kind of want on hand when you're just not feeling super motivated. So the next one is Jumpstart Your Priorities. It's actually a book that you fill out on the daily for 90 days, but I don't fill it out. I just read the side stuff over here because it tells you different things that you could do each day to kind of move in the direction of your goals. And if you are sitting around all day and you're trying to figure out, I don't know what to do today, just pull out this book. Failing Forward. I've heard so many inspirational people talk about this book, and of all books, it's probably a really good one to pick up. It's not about telling you what you're doing wrong. It's not about implementing positive thinking. It's about how successful people fail, and you just have to keep going. Developing the leader within you. How successful people think. 20 indispensable qualities of a leader boiled down. Leadership 101. What successful people know about leadership. Also a really good one. How successful people win. 5 stars, 5 stars, 5 stars. I don't know why I decided to read these books about leadership, but once I did, I realized, oh, this is actually a really good thing to know. And I think that completes all of the books by him. Finally, we're out of the self-help section, except for the last one, which is How to Win Friends and Influence People. It teaches you a lot about how to communicate with people in a proper way. I think that's something that we all should learn. I wish I would have learned that in school, to be totally honest with you. So yeah, this was a 5-star read for me. Okay, that's it. That's my 70 books. That was a lot of books. If you made it to the end of this video, thanks for watching. Hopefully you got some good reads out of this. Maybe you wrote down some stuff for your TBR. I don't know, maybe something in there. And yeah, if you have any books that you would like to recommend to me, let me know what they are below, because I love book recommendations. Thanks so much for being here, checking out this video, hanging out with me while I talked about all my books, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye!